Evening, troopers. And thanks for noticing. You know, I've been sat here in the man cave, and I've been reading my heroic fantasy novel, and I was cleaning and getting ready to do some sweet moves with my katana. And I thought to myself, oh God, I'm a neckbeard. Now, if I used editing and stuff in my videos, at that point, there'd be like a break, and then there'd be like a logo, and it'd go, inside the man cave, and there'd be like music, and then we'd come back to the video proper like now. But I don't do editing and stuff, because I like just doing it into my phone, like your mum does. So, imagine now that there's just a graphic coming on going, inside the man cave! And we're back. Now, many of you probably heard the term neckbeard. Most of you know what it is. It's not literally a guy who only has like a Dutch beard that goes under his chin. It's about 100 interests and personality traits that seem to be really common in Western culture. I don't know whether you get it in other cultures, but in Europe and North America and Australia and Canada, you just seem to get this thing of plump, poorly hygienic, middling academically but read a lot and think they're a bit cleverer than they are. They're into Japanese culture. There's a whole list of things that these guys are into, and not everyone's into all of them, but we're all into them somewhere. And the more that you tick, the more boxes you tick, the more chance you have of being a neckbeard. And sometimes you read on Reddit, some neckbeards are quite unpleasant, scary, nasty guys. But then some guys can just be amazing, and it's just a plump dude who doesn't shower very often, but he's still a nice guy and he's still fun to be around. And I've never been that. I've always been quite fastidious about cleanliness. But I know some guys are, and I can't stand why. Especially because a lot of neckbeards seem to be really, really interested in the ladies. And you're never going to get very far if you've got really horrible fingernails and dirt under them and you're sweaty and greasy and stuff. So, what I want to talk about, though, anyway, back to neckbeards. I've just been looking for it on the bookcase, and I know I've got it somewhere because I've read it and I really like it, but I can't find it right now. There's a book that was written about 400 years ago called Don Quixote. And I don't know if any of you have read it. If you have and you're a bit of a nerd, then you need to read it. Because 400 years ago, the author nailed the neckbeard. The story is about an old man who lives in he's sort of old money, faded money. He's got a nice big castle house and one servant left. And he just spends his days reading fantasy. Heraldic stories of knights and armour and all that. And he goes a bit doolally. And he makes his own armour. And he goes out on his horse that's a sway-back, threadbare old knacker. And you've probably heard the expression tilting at windmills. Now, in the book, he charges windmills because in his head he sees giants. The weird thing is, though, so many of the character traits that we aspire to neckbeards, Don Quixote has as a character from 400 years ago. He's essentially a cosplayer. He makes his own outfit out of pasteboard and scraps of fabric. It's not real armour, but it looks quite realistic till you get quite close up. He's got a really poor ability to relate to women. Like, he loves from afar and never really interacts as a human. He's got his little buddy, Sancho Panza, that he takes along with him. And he's sort of half into it, but he never really fully gets the plan that Don Quixote has, and he never really gets into the fantasy. So, if that kind of thing happened, and it is a bit of a parody and a joke and a satire on things from 400 years ago, but if that kind of thing was happening then, and it's still sort of happening now, what is it that makes us read and take in these media and decide to live it? I've never been a cosplayer because I'm a big guy, and It's hard. There's not many guys you can cosplay as a big guy. Hulk, Thing, Jack Black in films, but even Jack Black is quite thin now because apparently cocaine's a hell of a drug. So, what are your list? I'm asking you a question again, and I don't really care, but I'm interested. No, genuinely, I'm interested. What's your list of things that you would tick off a neckbeard list? Japanese anime, never really floated my boat, to be honest. Fedoras, never really owned a fedora. I only wear this for something to do. I don't normally wear hats at all, but this is a nice little shtick. It's itchy. My helmet is quite itchy under here. What else are neckbeards into? Well, I've only got my katana. It's a Kill Bill replica, and it looks quite nice in the window. Scared off muggers. So, a classical reference. Not many of my videos have got classical references in them, but today we've talked about Don Quixote. If you've never read it, it is worth a read because it's quite funny, and it's like older than America. It's that old. It's like 1605, I think it was. But he's one of us. He's a nerd. He's a geek. And he reads these stories and he believes these stories, and he goes out in his cosplay outfit and he has adventures, and he ends up looking a bit of a fool. I'm bringing this up because I'm going to a convention tomorrow, which there's probably going to be quite a few cosplayers. And I think it's quite a laudable hobby. It can be quite a laudable hobby. It's effort, you know? If one of these guys that dresses as a stormtrooper, that's an effort. To make that outfit, it's cost, it's a skill. But I just don't understand why there's this thing as a neckbeard that seems so universal. If you've got any opinion on it, please post below. Because I want to know. I'm actually, I am interested. I do want to know if you know. Because I've met a few neckbeards and I'm pretty far on the scale. And I couldn't tell you why. Anyway, that was a bit of a rambling one. Classical reference, Don Quixote by Cervantes. If you haven't read it, and you do read a lot, it's worth a go. And I hope you all have a great weekend. Bye-bye.